Hey, how's it going, guys? Greg here from Monkey Pod, and I had a question in my private community this morning. Shout out to the chef Stephen Marsh about complex campaigns and when they have sort of bloated and become more cumbersome than you intended. How can you retroactively divide them into smaller, more manageable campaigns? And this is a topic that comes up periodically because I think a lot of people start a campaign with relatively small intentions, and then as you get going, as you get building and designing, you start adding elements to it, and before you know it, you've got a sprawling, spider web of some sort, and you wish that you would have just started a new campaign and divided it into 2 or 3 smaller campaigns. Now, there are a handful of reasons why you would want that. I've got a blog post here from a friend of mine, Mr. Mike Harris, calling out why he prefers smaller, compartmentalized campaigns, and some recommendations for how you can break those up. And it's a topic that we have discussed with Keap Academy, but the bottom line is there is a way to divide your larger existing campaign into smaller, more bite-sized automation modules. And in this video, I'm going to show you how you can do that. Okay, so let's start with what I think is the most common scenario here, where you start building a campaign, and then you wind up realizing you have probably missed the point where it should have split into 2 campaigns. So here's an example. The front half of this campaign is a promotion, and then once they make a purchase, we move into fulfillment and potentially upsell. So this point of purchase serves as a natural inflection point and probably should have concluded campaign 1 and started campaign 2. So in this scenario, what we're going to do is make a copy of this campaign. So we'll just call this splitting up complex campaigns, new version, right? Something like that. And then in the new campaign, we will remove everything prior to the purchase. So basically just having the purchase be the initiating trigger for this campaign. And then we will mark this entire campaign as ready and then publish the new version of this campaign. So this is now our isolated fulfillment, right? The fulfillment and upsell are now in a campaign on themselves, or by themselves rather, and we need to jump back to that first campaign, and now we need to update it to remove everything after the purchase, knowing that our fulfillment is taking place in that other campaign. So this purchase goal serves as sort of the transition point. When they achieve that purchase goal, they're going to conclude this campaign and simultaneously start the other campaign. So that's the most common scenario I see, and the easiest way to segment a broad campaign into 2 smaller campaigns. But there might be some additional considerations. So let's look at a more complex example. As you can see, it's not terribly complex, but I do have 3 sort of unique structures. So campaign number 1, campaign number 2, and campaign number 3. And right now, they're all on the same canvas. So the goal here is to divide them into 3 smaller, bite-sized chunks of automation. Let's say, for example, that there are existing contacts in this campaign, and we don't want to disrupt their experience. So we do want to give ourselves separate campaigns in the future, but we don't want to ruin the plans that are scheduled for any of these individuals, okay? So step number 1 is going to be to clone this campaign. I'm going to work on isolating just this section into its own campaign canvas. Of course, you could rebuild this from scratch, but depending on the complexity of what you have in the sequence, or maybe your campaign structure is bigger and more sprawling anyway, the easiest way to do it is to make a copy of your campaign. So we'll call this splitting up complex campaigns. I'll just change that to CC V2. And now, because we are looking to just isolate that central section of the campaign, we can just delete this top line area. So delete all of that and delete all of that. And we can also delete this bottom section, right? So delete all of this. And then all we need to do is mark these items as ready. So go through the campaign, reset all of the copied items as ready. Right now, that's a manual process. I would love it if there was a way to bulk select items and mark them as ready using this type of a menu. But right now, you just have to go through each item one at a time, mark those as ready, and then publish this campaign. Now, a key distinction here is when you go to publish, it's going to ask you, if the campaign starts with a tag, it's going to ask you if you want to add the people who have this tag but have not been in this campaign, if you want to add them to this automation. And in this scenario, there are instances where you would say yes, but in this scenario, we definitely want to say no, because those are the contacts who were in that first version of the campaign. So now that this one is live, new contacts who get this tag will automatically be added to this sequence, and you've got it on its own campaign canvas here. So once we have done that, we then jump back into the initial version of this campaign, and we want to remove that trigger. So what we want to do is we want to prevent people who get that tag from being added to two campaigns. We don't want to remove this sequence just yet because there are still people in that sequence. So we want to let them finish out the automation that is planned for them. So what I like to do is sort of take a peek at that sequence, see who is in there, and how much longer the automation is planned for, and then set myself a calendar reminder or leave a note here on the campaign canvas saying, delete this after June 1st, right? Something like that, so that I know when it's safe to remove that sequence. But you don't have to worry about new people being added because we have removed that trigger. Now, let's do this one more time to try to isolate this third section of automation here. And this one has an added complexity. So because this one is initiated by a web form, web forms live in the campaign in which they are built. And that's a little bit different than public forms in Keap Pro and Keap Max. But if you're using Max Classic or you're using web forms in general, they live on that campaign canvas. So that means that when I copy this, which we do want to do, let's do copy, setting up CC, and then this will be V3, so the third section of this campaign. When we copy this, it's initiating. We could delete all of this stuff. We could delete all of this stuff here. But it's copied this campaign structure for us. The difference, though, is that this is actually a unique web form. So this is not the same web form we had in that initial campaign. And the reason that matters is because if somebody fills out that initial web form, they're going to be added to the previous campaign. They're not going to be added to this new campaign structure. So what we do is we actually have two options. You can, set up, configure, and publish this existing web form, and then in any locations the other web form was being used, you would go replace it with this new web form code. That way, when contacts filled out the web form, they would be added to this campaign instead of the original one. But the second option is to just delete this altogether and to automatically add contacts to this welcome sequence from the previous campaign. So let's set all of these items as ready, just like that. And we will publish this campaign. And then, as you can see, there isn't a trigger for it at this point. There's nothing adding contacts to this. So this is where we get a little bit advanced, and we go back to that original campaign, and we sort of create a teleport station, like the Mario tubes that you can go down and warp into a different campaign. So we'll just detach this initial sequence here. So this sign up web form is already live on our website. And if there were no contacts in this section, we could delete all of that. But because we know there are contacts in those sequences, as you can see here, 3, 4, 2, and 6, we want to leave those intact while those contacts finish their automation. But for new people who fill out this form, we want to fling them over or warp them or teleport them over into the welcome sequence in that other campaign. So teleport to V3 campaign. There we go. And then in this, we'll use the add to sequence widget. Now, this was a relatively new sequence step that maybe you haven't experienced, but what it does is it allows you to choose another campaign. So it's splitting up CC V3, and then you choose the sequence in that campaign that you would like to add contacts into. And then you also have the option of removing contacts from the current sequence when they reach this action. And we do want to do that. So that means that our web form, which is already on our different web pages, is out there and leads are signing up. But now when they get added, instead of going into this flow on this canvas, they're going to be teleported over to that new cloned version of this campaign, and we can go ahead and publish that. So with this latest publish, what we have wound up with is 3 different campaigns. And in the current state, we're going to let automation continue its course here, and then we will delete that once those contacts have concluded their automation. And then we will also be able to delete this once contacts have completed that automation, and that'll consolidate things down so that we have one smaller, simpler, more manageable campaign with just the one structure on it, and this little teleport automation widget as well. And then we have the 2 new campaigns that each have been cloned to separate out different campaign structures into their own campaign canvas. So that is the process I would recommend for taking a larger campaign and breaking it up into several smaller bite-sized chunks of automation. Steven or anyone else who took the time to watch this video, I hope you found this valuable. If you would like more comprehensive training on the Advanced Automations Builder on the Campaign Builder inside Keap, you can go to cbtrilogy.com and unlock that course for free. If you have any questions, comments, or compliments, go ahead and leave them below this video. Take care.